humans soon become the reality or realities that they accept. But little do they know that such reality or realities are given to them by themselves or by something or somebody else. Reality is real because it's made up. The dimensions of being are different from the illusions of being. But they have one thing in common. They follow patterns, energies, frequencies, and vibrations. I call these patterns intensities. And these intensities are often driven by intelligence and intentionalities. A way of thinking, it's a way of being. The human being is what it is because of what it thinks of itself and what is given to itself by others. If you cannot say how grateful and thankful you are, it will be difficult to find meaning, purpose, and direction in life. And it will be difficult to find and appreciate beauty, satisfaction, and happiness. Ungrateful humans lives for the hollow futility of life. A life that does not appreciate, a life that is not grateful, is often empty, angry, unpeaceful, and sad. You must give reasons to yourself to be grateful and thankful in life in order to keep life going. Else, the very essence of life itself and that inner peace and prosperity that it desires is lost. A lost being is a being without thankfulness and gratefulness. Ingratitude is a seed to self-destruction or self-extinction. When we fail to appreciate the little things of life, we lose touch with happiness and what life is all about. If you cannot appreciate greatness, how can you be great? How can you not appreciate happiness? How can you be happy if you don't appreciate happiness? If you can't appreciate the good things of life or kindness, how can you know what is good? How can you therefore be kind? If you can't appreciate love, how can you be loved? How can you know when you are loved? If you can't appreciate trust, how can you be trusted? If you don't appreciate favors, how will you be able to use the opportunities granted to you in life? I call upon thee to create a grateful world, and that grateful world starts from within. Remember, let it be on the record of the universe on how grateful you are. Saying how grateful you are is a natural and spiritual or psychological and ecological source of healing and thankfulness. You must find within you the things that can make you to be grateful. Always remember, you must learn to be grateful. If I'm not good at what I have not learned, if I'm not good at what I've learned or what I've not learned, then who am I? Learning is the process of knowing. Things are not good or bad in themselves, but per what humans say. And what humans say is often based on their intelligence. It's based on the intelligence or intentionalities and intensities of their traditions, religions, culture, and their laws of governance. If you cannot give directions, won't it be difficult for you to follow others? And won't it be difficult for you to follow others? Remember, orders are instructive directions. And if you can't follow directions, it will be difficult to follow instructions. You must make thyself to be that which is easy to follow instructions and directions. Remember this. Uh, when you do communicate or have a conversation with somebody, always remember to fine-tune yourself. To have pointers in that conversation that are information grabbing and that are conversationally intriguing and interesting with some novelty in it or clarifications and understanding that can sustain the conversation without it being boring or marred with platitudes or futilities and empty talk. For your voice to be heard, you must like and believe in the velocity, intensity, and the reasoning in what you're saying. Under the sun, much is done. Be transparent and translucent. Excitement is the zest to life. For excitement in itself is an energy. For life is driven by excitement of how things work, how things move, how things happen or fails to happen. More is gotten in life through excitement than anything else. You must be excited. Free your life from your inner demons, and your life will be much better. You cannot be the thing that can only be stopped by harm, by hurt, by loss, or death. Humans sometimes use their inner demons in order to excuse or justify their bad behavior. Don't let your artificial state of mind hurt your natural state of mind. A way of thinking is a way of being. A cheap mindset is difficult to overcome. Don't be cheap, else you miss the aesthetics of life. People who produce the cheapest of stuff make a lot of money. But people who sell cheap stuff makes less money. Accountability is the key to success. Nobody giveth to thee more than thyself. Happy are those who appreciate. It's not the gift itself, but the appreciation of the gift that matters. It's not the gift itself that is given to you that matters. That which matters is how you appreciate that which is given to you. What you say to yourself determines what you do. Be mindful, therefore, of what you say to yourself. You are the burden, the liability, the treasure, or the reward of your thoughts. Humans think it without their senses, but humans act based on their senses. For the mind is not flesh, but the deeds are flesh. For the deeds come from the flesh, and that flesh is either rewarded or punished. The mind is never punished. The human being is the thing that is punished. Be mindful of your thoughts. For what you say to yourself determines what you do. Arrogance only hardens the character in you that can only take away from you. Don't let your arrogance takes you to the wrong places of life. Arrogance is the deafness of the mind to the senses and feelings and sensitivity to realities. Accepting responsibility is a core tenet of human wisdom. And again, accepting responsibility is equal to core tenet to humility and respectability. Make yourself some time to be laughed at. It's okay to be laughed at. For if you cannot be laughed at, then you cannot be better in something. When humans do things, it's not guaranteed that those things will go right. Things might fail. But when you do fail, it's okay to be laughed at. It makes you relieve yourself from the pains of failure and to encourage yourself to try again. Not trying again. It's a shameful thing. Be wise and be wise in distilling your ignorance. For when ignorance overcomes or overshadows intelligence, it becomes difficult for humans to lead. Once a being is consumed by ignorance, that is soon consumed by arrogance. Humility, wisdom, and common sense is out of the way. And what happens when humility, wisdom, and common sense is out of the way? The human being self-destroy or humiliates itself at the detriment and expense of others. We We ask questions most of the times for the human being. There are many ways to ask what a human being is. And sometimes the way we think, what we do, how we see ourselves, how we see others, what brings us together, what separates us, what unites us, what destroys us, that purpose of being, that essence, that element of that which is the being itself. The question is always to ask, what is a human? Away from the physicality that you see, away from the emotion and energy that they emit. What is it that is human? Away from what you study in school or away from what you are taught. What is human? And when humans do stuff, what is the goal? What is it based for or at? What's the purpose of being or doing things? And the human being must be based in reality. Because a human being is a physical, real, observable being. Why should a human being be based in reality? Because a human being is a physical, real, observable being. That reality in itself is a product of illusions and delusions, of consciousness, of the abstractness of life, or the idea of being. But that idea and illusions, or the intangibility, must be made real for that human being to be based in reality. The reality in itself is a construct. But either reality is given to you by yourself or by somebody or something. Human beings should be based in reality. If he wants or seeks self-actualization, if you want to produce something or do something, you cannot escape from the realities that surrounds what you're about to do. The causality of things, the effectualities of things, the vicarious liabilities of things, the extension of thought, and the materialization of thought. It determines what type of reality that a human being is living in. Reality in itself is not a thing until it's made. And it's for the human being or others to define that reality. Sometimes reality comes from the consequences or the reward of that which humans do. If there is no consequence and there is no reward, most realities will not be made. It's a way of thinking. You cannot not make that which is not true to be true. Not being grounded in reality stretches the human being to be what is not. Refusing to be grounded in reality stretches the human being to be what is not. And stretches the human being to be what is not. Can be good, can be bad. It's through that stretch that artificialities are made. It's through that stretch that artificial intelligences are realized. It's through that stretch that human ingenuity, invention, and innovation, and creativity is realized. You must be willing to stretch reality, to create new realities. Because realities in themselves are the imaginations of the human being. Realities in themselves are the thought processes, the doubts and questions that humans seek to answer. Realities soon become the excitements of life or the limitations of life. Realities sometimes let us know our limits. That a human being in itself has no limit. Only the human being can define its limit. Because even when limits are given to you, sometimes those limits are meant to underestimate you. Boundaries don't exist unless it's given. Fear don't exist unless it's given. You must be willing to push that envelope. Push yourself. If you don't create new realities, then you're limited to old realities. Old realities hardly give sustainable satisfaction and happiness to the human being itself. Life is given to be made new all the time. Life is given to thee to be made new all the time. Change and adaptability are the basic instruments that drive life. It's a way of thinking, it's a way of being. You cannot escape the realities of life. You are born to face the realities of life, to change it, to alter it. In the game of reality, sometimes delusion is mistaken for illusions, and dystopia is mistaken for utopia. Make sure that utopia are not mistaken for dystopia, and that illusions are not mistaken for delusions. Remember this. A thought without the feasibility of realization is thoughtless. It's unworthy having a thought without the feasibility of realization. The thought process is very vital in the being of the being itself. Human beings think. You got that gold mine of thought. As you think and connect those thoughts based on triangulation. All triangulation does is the human that try to connect the thoughts that are in the mind. It connects those thoughts, exponentiate those thoughts to create measurement, proportionality, and balances, and sees where it takes you. It needs those thoughts to create reality. Reality is very vital for the being of the being itself. Working with people is the highest importance you can give to those people. It's good to be needed. It's good to be relevant. It's good to be essential. Contribution creates relevancy and importance. That's a thought. Where does that thought come from? I was trying to answer a question in my mind. If working with people makes people feel important, then answer that thought that working with people is the highest importance you can give to them. It's a good thing to be relevant, to be needed, and to be essential. That contribution creates relevancy and importance. If that is what I say, and if that is what I meant, I can therefore seek to realize, to make these thoughts to become a reality. Realities are made. It comes from the thought process. As you think it, so you become. What is it? How is a human being connected to its work and reputation? How can you connect those thoughts together? Reputation, handwork, dignity, hard work, integrity, and performance. And to this or to that, I will say, your reputation is in your handwork. Your dignity is in your hard work. And your integrity is in your performance. You do you need to have friends? And must you agree with people in order to call them your friends? To that effect, my friend, I will tell you that you don't need to agree in life in order to be friends or in order to make friends. You need to disagree in life in order to be friends. If you agree with somebody all the time, then that person is not your friend. If you disagree with somebody most of the times and agree and find yourself in agreement, then that is your friend. If you disagree to agree or disagree to agree, then friendship can be realized. Friendship not based out of agreement and disagreement is not friendship. It's just a pacification of relationship because somebody actually lacks a friend. A friend that is not candid. It's not a friend. The question becomes, what is a friend? What does it mean to have a friend? What does that word mean? What is friendship? Can enemies be friends? And can friends not be enemies? Why do you need a friend? Is your family a friend? Are the people that proximity bring together your friends? Can there be friendship without proximity? Isn't proximity the thing that brings people together? And if proximity is that thing that brings people together, Therefore, isn't proximity a thing in itself? A thing that brings people together. Isn't that thing the proximity itself? And if you take away, therefore, that proximity, then there is no relationship and friendship. Then humans, therefore, cannot get to know one another. Isn't a birthday party a proximity that brings people together? And out of that birthday party, will relationships be made that can therefore lead to friendship? Isn't proximity the workplace, the task that people are called upon to do? Isn't proximity the round table that people sit to make decisions or sit to eat? Isn't proximity the church that binds people together, or the classroom that brings students together? Isn't proximity the idea that binds people together, something called democracy, that rally people towards an idea or an ideology? Isn't the thing that brings people together the proximity that leads people to do great things and create relationships? If you didn't meet somewhere because of something, will you fall in love? Will you get married? Will you have a child? If something did not happen that brought you in proximity with that person or thing or idea, isn't proximity the thing that brings you to something that thing itself becomes a light? Isn't it true that if you grab so many proximities, life will be much better, much enlightened and richer, and of being open-minded, open-handed, and open-hearted? Isn't proximity the thing that takes you to places? Isn't going to a movie or going to the park? It's searching for that proximity that can gravitate towards you meeting people, sharing ideas. Isn't proximity the gym that you go to? Isn't proximity even the social media, a page that you open, a new account, a new person you see, a click? Isn't proximity the thing itself that if you take away proximity, that thing itself that humans become separated from one another? Isn't the greatest proximity becomes the thing that make people to be the greatest of things? Isn't the most powerful people are the people that have the most powerful proximity pull? Isn't it true that if you can exponentiate your proximity, then exponentiate your power and reach? Proximity. If you take away proximity, what will life be? Because the human is a being of motion, of movement, of travels. If humans don't go places, and if humans are not attached to new things, and without that proximity, won't you see that life will be lonely and boring and isolated? Isn't it true that a human being is not an island but a community of beings, a community of people, or the community itself? Isn't proximity the thing we call volunteer? Isn't proximity the things that brings the best out of humans, or bring the worst out of them? If the human being is isolated to itself without proximity to anything else, what would that human being be? Can a human being live without others? Can a human being not live in a community and still be itself? Isn't community in itself proximity? Isn't the shopping mall proximity? And even that thing in itself that you go to buy, isn't that a proximity? Isn't that a gravitational force? Isn't the gravitational force itself proximity? Something that attracts humans to something. And proximity, your neighbor. And it's through proximity that you get to know your neighbor. How close humans are to things becomes how attached they are to it. And when humans detach themselves from things, aren't those humans detaching themselves from proximity? Isn't proximity the same like your thoughts, your character, your manners and attitude? Isn't that which is closest to the mind, that which the mind is thinking? Isn't the first thought and the thought that is more closer to the brain becomes what the brain does? If you separate the brain from proximity, what would that brain be? Can you skip that which is closer to your mind to do that which is farther away from your mind? Are the human being a reward of victims of proximity? Sometimes we say first things first. Aren't we saying proximity first? Attraction, isn't that proximity? Something that takes you closer to something. Isn't it true that the things that is much reachable are the things that are much easier to grab, and therefore those things become the human being itself? Isn't addiction proximity to something that's easy to get? Isn't it true that things that are easy to get are within the range of proximity, and things that are difficult to get are farther away from your range of proximity? Proximity, relationship and friendship. Forces of attraction. Isn't proximity the energy? Can you define proximity through the intensity? When you use intensity to define proximity, the force, the frequencies, the vibration, the energy that somebody would take to grab something, the force that people exert. Isn't the farther away from you, the farther you can struggle to get something? Means the farther away the proximity to that thing. If you love somebody or something, you can't get it. Doesn't mean that thing is far away from you. Must therefore proximity mean something physical. Because you might, the understanding sometimes difficult to understand. It means the proximity to that knowledge, the proximity to that resolution, the proximity to that reconciliation is farther away from us. The closer the proximity, the closer the human bond, the closer human understanding. Isn't familiarity proximity in its intangibility as an idea instead of a thing that you can grab and hold? If you can familiarize your knowledge or yourself with something, Isn't it true that you're proximate to that thing? Isn't reading, seeking to know, seeking to familiarize ourselves with something? It's closing the gap of proximity, that the knowledge of that person is easily reachable or grabbable. Isn't it true that proximity itself can be the problem? If without restraint and control and discipline, a proximity to a weapon can be used against people. Some people cannot control their appetite or their lust. Proximity to something can endanger the life of that thing or the thing itself. Proximity sometimes can lead to danger. Isn't a rape because of proximity, an abuse because of proximity, a hurt because of proximity, violence because of proximity? Isn't it true that hurt comes from those who are the most closer to you? So therefore the hurt comes from proximity. And is it true that people hurt those who are closer to them? Therefore it's proximity. Proximity can be used for bad, can be used for good. But the thing that binds us together cannot be without proximity to that thing or the person. I will not be here if proximity did not bring my mom and dad together. And that thing that brought them together is a proximity. And that proximity is created by somebody else. So proximity becomes something that is exponentiated. Somebody throws a party. That's a proximity. It brings people together. And in that party, many things happen. Business is made. Relationships are made. Friends are made. And at the same time, enemies are made. Proximity. 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 Use it for your benefit, not to your detriment. You must go places. You must seek new relationships. You must seek new knowledge and new enlightenment. You must familiarize yourself with things. You must be adaptable. You must accept change. Take yourself or bring yourself in proximate to things in order to measure the reaction, intensity, and intentions. Proximity is that which bind or separate humans. The magnetic force or attraction, a magnet. You take away the proximity, there is no attraction. Take away the proximity, there is no attraction. Things will repel. Somebody can be with you physically, but the proximity mentally is severed. When people divorce or people separate, it means that thing that binds them together, that proximity, that bond is broken. That proximity is severed. That binding factor, that thing that makes things to become what they are. If that thing is taken away, that proximity is taken away, things fall apart. relationships fall apart because that proximity that brought them together fell apart. People divorce because the proximity that brought them together got severed. People separate because that proximity has separated. The things that we agree on is different from what it used to be. That proximity might be the love, that thing that binds people together. That proximity might be the work. That proximity might be that common idea, that common ideology, that thing that brings us together. The more proximity you create, the better your relationships. And the more proximity you strengthen, the more sustainable your relationships. Something brings people together. That thing is the proximity. And our relationship, therefore, is determined if that proximity is strengthened or weakened. And the things that come out of that proximity are still the exponentiation of that proximity itself. Because those things are connected to that proximity. Therefore, to destroy people or a person, destroy their proximities. Sometimes erasing a tradition, a culture, or a history, or religion is by destroying the proximities. Proximities can be destroyed physically or mentally or spiritually. Some humans, God is so proximate to them. Jesus is proximate to them. So if you take away Jesus, you destroy that person. Some people, being a good person, they want to do good. So they are drawn to the things, they are attracted to the things that brings out some good in humans. Philanthropy, volunteering, some good Samaritanism, and just contributing. That thing to contribute, that's the proximity, the thing that binds people together. If you strengthen those proximities, lives can be much better. Proximity. Proximity. If it takes a child to school, that school can become the thing. The school can become something closer to the heart and mind and soul of that being. That through that, something good can come out of it. Proximity. Without proximity, I was not made. You weren't made. And nothing else is made. When people go to conferences, it's proximity. Think tanks, proximity. Rallies, proximity. Concerts, proximity. Movies, proximities. Walking to the park or parks, proximities. Offices, proximities. Churches, proximities. Grocery stores, proximities. The things that attract people together are proximities. When those things are severed, once proximity falls apart, things fall apart. Things cannot fall apart unless the proximity that binds those things together falls apart. Remember that. Philosopher, Prince, AI. AI, intelligence is philosopher, Prince is Rezar. February 1st, 2025 from Las Vegas on reality and proximity. How we make our own realities and how proximities brings us together or put us apart. The human being is a being of proximities. Seek to create or to be part of positive causalities, proximities. Positive causality, proximities. Be part of that which becomes something bigger. And you must seek to know that without proximity, nothing great is done. Be part of something. Proximity is an attraction. The law of attraction cannot be without proximity. Without proximity, humans don't come together. No human being was made. That proximity can be a place, can be a thing, can be an idea. That proximity is something that you must seek and refine and make whole in order for it to be sustainable. Go places, make new friends, build new ideas. For what is life without people coming together to make this world a better place?